He was only trying to get into his car. A quiet night, an empty parking lot, and a successful CEO heading home after another long day. But just as Robert reached for the door of his black BMW, a small voice from inside snapped, "Shut up. Don't say a word." He froze. It wasn't a prank, and it wasn't an accident. Sitting in the back seat was a 7-year-old black girl, with eyes full of fear, and a warning that would change his entire life. Why was she in his car? And what dark truth was she about to expose? It was supposed to be just another night for Robert Hayes, a 52-year-old self-made millionaire and respected CEO of Hayes Technologies. He'd spent the entire day in back-to-back meetings, finalizing plans for a massive $500 million merger that would expand his company across 3 continents. Tired but satisfied, he stepped out of the glass headquarters into the cool evening air. The parking lot was nearly empty, illuminated by bright security lights that reflected off the sleek surface of his black BMW. Robert had built his success on discipline, loyalty, and the belief that the people closest to him were trustworthy. His business partner of 10 years, Victor Cole, had practically become family. Linda Price, his executive assistant, was someone he openly referred to as the backbone of his company. As he walked toward his car that night, Robert was already thinking about tomorrow's big meeting, the moment that would cement his legacy. The night was calm. No footsteps behind him, no strange noises, just the soft hum of distant traffic and the quiet pride of a man who believed he had everything under control. He pressed the unlock button and reached for the handle, but for some reason, his heart began to beat faster. A strange tension filled the air, as if something unseen was waiting for him. Robert brushed it off as fatigue. He had no idea that this regular walk to his car was the beginning of something much darker, something that would shake the very foundation of everything he believed in. Robert's fingers barely touched the handle before the voice hit him like a shot. "Shut up. Don't say a word." His entire body stiffened. He turned slowly and stared through the tinted glass. There, in the back seat, sat a little black girl in a faded yellow dress. She looked no older than 7. Her shoes were muddy. Her small hands clutched the edge of the seat like she was bracing herself for something terrible. Her voice had been cold, but her eyes were terrified. Robert stepped back in disbelief. His first instinct was to call security, but something about the girl stopped him. Her eyes weren't angry. They were pleading, desperate. Without even thinking, he opened the door. Before he could speak, the girl whispered, "They're going to steal everything. They talked about it upstairs. The big man and the woman." Robert's heart pounded. "What are you talking about?" he muttered. But the girl only looked at him and said, "Victor and Linda." In an instant, the calm of the night shattered. Robert's mind began to whirl. This had to be a misunderstanding. A prank. Some awful coincidence. Victor and Linda were his most trusted people. Why would a young girl even know their names? He crouched down, trying to stay calm, but his hands were trembling. "Who are you?" he asked. The girl looked down at her shoes. "My name is Amara. I heard them. They said if you sign those papers tomorrow, they'll own everything and you won't even know it." Robert felt the world tilt. He had spent months preparing for the merger, trusting Victor to review all contracts and Linda to manage the legal side. Suddenly, every late-night meeting, every closed-door conversation, every hushed phone call flashed through his mind in a different light. He got Amara out of the car and rushed her inside the building before anyone could see them. Once in his office, she repeated everything she had heard. A conversation between Victor and Linda, talking about forged signatures, offshore accounts, and how he'll be too proud to question any of it. Robert tried calling Victor's phone, no answer. Linda didn't answer either. Instead, both their cars were still parked outside, even though they were supposed to have left hours ago. A cold realization hit him. They were still inside the building, somewhere upstairs, probably destroying the last pieces of evidence. Panic rose in his chest, but Robert knew he needed proof. He thought back to an old friend, Daniel Cruz, a retired private investigator who still owed Robert a favor. He made the call, voice shaking as he explained everything. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Give me 2 hours," he said. "And don't let that girl out of your sight." Robert paced up and down his office, every second feeling like an hour. He looked at Amara sitting quietly on the couch, her small hands tucked under her chin. She shouldn't have to carry this. She shouldn't even be here. Then the phone rang. It was Daniel. And what he found made Robert's blood run cold. Robert's hands shook as he held the reports Daniel had just emailed. Bank transfers routed through shell companies, forged contracts signed in his name, transcripts of conversations recorded from Victor's private phone. There was no room left for doubt. The people he trusted most were planning to destroy him. The next morning, Robert walked into the boardroom with Amara quietly by his side. Every executive sat around the polished table, smiling as though nothing was wrong. Victor greeted him with a smug grin. Linda slid a stack of documents toward him. Just a few final signatures before the merger begins. Robert didn't sit. He slammed the folder of evidence on the table, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Before I sign anything, I think we should listen to this." He pressed play. Victor's voice filled the room. "Once he signs, Hayes Technologies is ours. He's too blind to see what's happening." Gasps erupted. Linda's face drained of color. Some executives stood up in shock. Robert's pulse thundered in his ears, but he didn't look away. He needed them to hear every word. Then Amara stepped forward. Her small voice carried across the room as she confirmed everything she had overheard. It wasn't a child's story. It was the missing key that tied it all together. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Federal agents stormed in, armed with warrants and arrest orders. Victor tried to stand, but 2 agents pinned him to the table. Linda began to cry as they cuffed her, begging Robert to just talk this through. But Robert didn't say a word. He watched as the people he had trusted, people who tried to steal everything he built, were led out in front of the very company they tried to take. For a moment, the room was completely silent. Then Robert turned to Amara, because what she said next changed his life forever. Robert knelt beside Amara in the empty boardroom, his heart still pounding from everything that had just unfolded. She looked up at him and quietly said, "I didn't want them to hurt you. People like us, they don't always get listened to." Those words shattered him. In the days that followed, Robert learned the full truth. Amara's grandmother, Margaret Hayes, was his own distant cousin, a part of the family who'd been pushed aside decades ago and forgotten after an interracial marriage that others in the family had disapproved of. The more he uncovered, the more he realized this wasn't just about corporate betrayal. It was about a legacy of neglect, silence, and prejudice that had stretched across generations. He took custody of Amara and gave her a home, but he also gave her a promise that he would use his power and platform to make sure no child was ever ignored just because of the color of their skin. A few months later, he launched the Hayes Fellowship, a scholarship and shelter program that now supports over 300 vulnerable children every year. Robert's company survived. His reputation grew stronger. But none of that mattered as much as the little girl who sat across from him at the dinner table every night, reminding him that sometimes the people the world tries hardest to silence are the ones carrying the truth. Victor and Linda thought they were taking everything from him. Instead, they led him to the one person who would change his life forever. So think about it for a moment. How many voices like Amara's have gone unnoticed, just because no one cared enough to pay attention? What do you think? Was Robert truly brave for trusting a frightened little girl? Or was he simply lucky to uncover the truth in time? And if Amara's grandmother could see this moment, would she be proud of how their story finally found justice? Share your thoughts below, and if you believe stories like this need to be heard, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more.